recently, the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Udoma, revealed the strategies the federal government plans to adopt in funding the 2018 budget. He said the government realized that inadequate revenue was the greatest challenge it was facing in its effort to deliver service to the people. And the government's focus is to maximize the use of revenues from the oil sector and spend in the non-oil sector, since the oil was wasting assets. Now, we have with us a professor, Professor Kingsley Moghalu. He's a former deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria from 2009 to 2014. For the past 3 years, he has been the distinguished professor of practice in international business and public policy at the Tufts University in Boston, Massachusetts. And he has now returned home as the founder of a new think tank, the Institute for Governance and Economic Transportation. Join us. Thank you very much for being with us, Mr. Kingsley. Professor Kingsley Moghalu. It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being on the show, sir. Now, one of our objectives for bringing you on the show, because we wanted people out there to understand, they hear of budget, they hear of fiscal policy, they hear of monetary policy, CBN, the dollar is 395 to the dollar, tomorrow is 150. They are clueless on what this means to the average man. So we want you to help us start from the basics. What are the difference between the fiscal policy we have and our monetary policy? And how has the CBN, what's the effect the CBN has on all this, on all these policies?
Thank you. Actually, this is one of the reasons I returned home to set up the Institute for Governance and Economic Transformation after some time as a professor at Tufts University's Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy in Massachusetts. And that is to educate. The Institute intends to educate Nigerians on basic economics, basic concepts of governance, and that way Nigerians can become much more informed citizens that can engage the government on public policy. Now, to your question specifically, the difference between monetary and fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is about how the government generates and spends revenue. In a very basic sense, most of the revenues of any serious government must come from taxation. In Nigeria, that is not the case. The reason that is not the case, and we have a very low proportion of government revenue that comes from taxation, 6% only. The average is about 20% in most developing countries, at least 20%. And in developed countries, it goes to 40, 50% of their revenues coming from taxes. Now, the reason that is so is because of the curse of oil. When Nigeria discovered oil in the late 50s and 60s, from after the Civil War, the economy really became unbalanced. And everything about fiscal management became about how to share oil rents. And that is why you find commissioners of finance from the various states, they go to Abuja and they have this, allocation committee, FAC, and that is a distortion of economic management. So that's the first part on fiscal policy. Part of fiscal policy is also debt management, how to manage national debt. If the government borrows, how does it pay back? Does the government earn enough revenues to make it able to pay back what it borrows? And that is called debt sustainability. Now, coming to monetary policy. Monetary policy, which the Central Bank of Nigeria is responsible for, and the central bank anywhere in the world is responsible for, that deals with the money supply. The supply of money into the economy. Because the supply of money into the economy affects how money is spent and affects inflation. So this is one of the core responsibilities of monetary policy. That's the difference in a very basic way.
So we need the central bank to advise the Ministry of Finance whenever they're, proposing a budget. Now, in our 2018 budget, the exchange rate dollar to naira is 305 naira to a dollar, but in the real market is around 360, 365. Who advised who? And how sustainable is that for the 2018 budget?
Now, the matter of the exchange rate of the naira is a matter that is the responsibility exclusively, really, or mostly, of the central bank. Yeah. Now, the official exchange rate is 305. The exchange rate on the street is about 360 or 365. So there is a gap, yeah? And that is, ideally, that is not good because that creates room for arbitrage. If people, anyone who can access the dollar at the rate of 305 can always round trip it to 365 on the market and make a handsome profit. So we have, some of us have argued, although I know that the central bank is trying very hard to see that there is a convergence between the official rate and the parallel market rate. But I think that it's a little bit artificial, the situation we have now, and it's not ideal. Let's just put it that way. It's important that we have one exchange rate and not multiple exchange rates. There are even different exchange rates for other activities that are neither 305 to the dollar nor 365 to the dollar.
Is there anything we could do as a country or, as a government to see that, that business, that range, that, that profit being made is covered, in the sense that we have a mono economy, we sell oil, we sell it in dollars, we have dollars in the CBN. But these dollars are scarce. We push out Naira.
Now, you see, what determines the value of any country's currency is how productive that economy is in a real sense. In Nigeria, again, there is a distortion. What determines the value of the Naira is how much foreign reserves we have.
Wow.
And how much foreign reserves we have is a function of the price of oil. So anytime the oil price goes down, our foreign reserves go low, and this puts pressure on the value of the Naira. And this is why having a mono-product economy is a disaster for Nigeria.
Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Toko, you had a question.
Going into the budget, because that is the main cause of discussion. We have a budget that is meant to consolidate the economy. Because this current budget is the one for recovery, and now we're going into consolidation. When 41% of a budget for consolidation is going into recurrent, it makes Nigerians wonder, what exactly are we doing? Being that you're a professor in economy, I want you to clarify to us, because I have the opinion that, and that's shared by a lot of Nigerians, that for Nigeria to progress, we need to cut expenditure amongst the selected few in the political class and sacrifice from up downwards, as opposed to this immense pressure they want to bring on taxation. And borrowing.
I think you're completely and fantastically correct. You should be the professor. The reality is that Nigeria's leadership has not summoned the political will to do what the citizens of Nigeria need to have done. And that is to move away from focusing a lot of Nigeria's budgets. Up to 70%, between 70 and 90% of Nigeria's federal budgets have historically in recent years been spent on recurrent expenditure.
Very sad.
And that is paying salaries and just for political office holders and civil servants, and borrowing to sustain this situation. Now, one of the problems with spending, putting a lot of the budget into recurrent expenditure is that it also drives inflation.
Very true.
And when it drives inflation, when people are spending on unproductive enterprises instead of spending on capital projects, it forces the central bank to be able to jack up interest rates in order to decrease the money supply and control inflation. So when people sometimes ask, why is the interest rate high, this is partly the answer. Now, there are problems with the 2018 budget. You called it the budget of consolidation. Well, okay, that's a good intention. But part of the problem is that it keeps increasing. It's 8.6 trillion. And that's a 16% increase on last year's budget of about 7.4 or 7.4 trillion. Now, the budget is based on some assumptions. It is based on an assumption that the government revenues in 2018 will be about 6.6 trillion. These assumptions are unlikely to be met. The reason they are unlikely to be met is that the government says that out of 6.6 trillion, about 2.4 will come from oil. And about 4.1 will come from non-oil revenues. If we look at the track record, we find that these projections are often rosy. And what they project, very ambitious. They project that they will make so much money from non-oil revenue, but they don't realize it at the end of the day. Now, the deficit in this budget is 2 trillion. The deficit means the difference between what the government has or can earn and what it will have to spend. So that difference, they're going to have to borrow it. And that's they'll have to 2.1 trillion. And they're planning to go on to borrow about 1.7 trillion of it. So this just increases Nigeria's debt. And if they don't meet their projections, the deficit will increase. The PwC, professional services firm, has projected that they may have to increase the deficit. The deficit may increase up to 3 billion or 3-point-something billion. So this increases the borrowing that is going on and might increase Nigeria's external total debt to about 21 trillion. Now, there are now concerns about how sustainable this whole thing is, considering that we're spending about 60% of everything we earn in Nigeria to pay in debt. This is not sustainable. And so I believe that the economic management of Nigeria needs a complete overhaul. I have called for it several times. And one of the things we have to do, you talked about spending on recurrent expenditure. So we need to reduce our recurrent expenditure massively, but that means some tough political decisions, which many times
political will.
The political will is not there. But also, just to make the final point, but we also need to improve the efficiency of our tax collection.
That's exactly what I was going to go to.
Yeah, I have recommended that we follow the mobile phone, every mobile phone in Nigeria, to get more tax. But the problem is, of course, that people don't want to pay tax because they
the
don't
problem. See,
trust
I was going to come to you because it's easy for us to say the government, but they are trying really hard to find other sources of revenue, aside from oil, and that's the taxation thing. But people aren't willing because it takes two for us, both the people
I'll pay
and
my
the government
tax and they'll use it to cut grass.
God, we bless but there are lots of
I will
other
pay
people.
my tax and they'll use it to fly abroad.
You're in the very, very tiny brackets paying. There are lots of other people paying.
Yes, two things to bring this to bring the taxation issue home. It is our income that is mono. Our GDP is diverse. Why don't we diversify the economy so we can earn from several sources?
They're already doing that.
Hold on, Mariah. They are not doing it properly. Our last two budgets were 30% efficient. That's failure now. So if you're diversifying, we shouldn't be having that.
So going by Jumoke's comment right now, which is we are trying to diversify. Why is it so difficult?
So you didn't let me ask my question.
Sorry,
you didn't let me ask my question, which is the issue of taxation. So someone like myself who pays tax, I started paying tax to Lagos State because I walked into their office to go and pay because I saw what the Lagos State government under Governor Fashola was doing. So if I see that you're allocating 115 billion naira to the National Assembly, why would I want to pay my tax? So there's an issue in the budget in that we see that the distribution of revenue is imbalanced. So two issues.
Absolutely, No, the government should be spending far more on social infrastructure like education and health.
God bless you, sir.
Education, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, of which Nigeria is a member, recommends that member states spend a minimum of about 26% on education. And the expenditure here on education is
7% for this budget.
Is less than 10%. So now, to come to your point, there is need to rebuild trust. But rebuilding trust means that we need a new type of political leadership in Nigeria.
Exactly.
Yeah,
fantastic.
The political leadership class in Nigeria has broadly failed Nigerian citizens. I think we can fairly say that.
Okay.
And what should be the solution?
Okay.
The solution is that Nigerian citizens need to exercise their power. And their power is the vote. They need to vote in the right type of leaders, political leaders, who have the technocratic competence, who have the vision to reposition the economy. That's a judgment citizens have to make. But the point I'm trying to make is that diversifying the economy, which has been so difficult, yes, the GDP comes from several sources. Agriculture about 33%, oil now just about 14%.
Entertainment.
But the point is this: where do we earn foreign currency from? It is still predominantly oil. 90% from oil. And that's why we say that the revenue base of the economy is not diversified. So this means that the government needs to move towards what's called economic complexity. That is, how do we manufacture complex products and export them and earn money? That it is not exporting yam tuba. No. It is not exporting cashew nuts. No. I'm sorry.
But we're not capturing those ones either.
Well, but so that's not diverse.
A complex commodity. What do you mean by that?
A complex commodity is a commodity that has knowledge, value addition, insight into it. Different aggregates make up the product, and that's why it's complex. In fact, if you look at all the advanced countries of the world today, what are the raw materials they use to create television screens? They used to create the Samsung mobile phone. Most of them come from countries like Nigeria and other African countries. So they put them together. That's the complexity. Right. And then when they put these products together, they're very valuable. But to do that, you have to have what is called productive knowledge. Do you see the point? And that goes to how do you educate people?
Go back to education.
Education.
Yes, how do you educate people in a system? We need to educate people more towards technical skills that enable them to have productive knowledge. And this is how we can produce.
Japan concentrated for many years on not having business schools. They focused on everybody going through technical school. With our educational structure, people feel like maybe we don't have the right hands to move us from where we are to the next generation. We have 300 million Africans below 25 jobless. How do you think that we can harness this power, this 70% of our population that are largely underemployed or unemployed to move us forward?
Very good question. First of all, there are two approaches to solve the unemployment problem.
Let me take a quick break
in Nigeria.
We'll take those two approaches when we come back.
Very important.
Right after this break. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Okay.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for calling. Thanks for staying with us. We're going to answer the question concerning unemployment, but I think Hadiza has been holding for a while. Hadiza, are you still there?
Yes.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
You compliment of the season.
Yes, so go ahead.
Good. I'm so happy to hear this, to listen to this topic today. You are discussing. It's so educative and so entertaining.
Thank you very much, Hadiza.
Really, sir. People like you should not work privately. You should work with the government, so that this taxation issue should be corrected and should be enlightened to the
Thank you very much, Hadiza. Very good. Very good point.
Work with the government, not only.
All right.
Very good point, Hadiza.
So answering to Tokwe's question
concerning unemployment.
Well, first of all, unemployment. There are two solutions to unemployment in Nigeria. The first solution is that the educational system needs to be fundamentally reformed, because it is producing a pipeline into unemployment. The educational system needs to be skewed towards skills.
Skills acquisition.
Yes, vocational skills, engineering, technology, IT, plumbing, mechanics, those are the types of things. So most courses in our universities now you know, not they're theoretical. So so we need to, first of all, restructure the education system. And there should be a two-track system of education in Nigeria, where when you come out of secondary school, you can go into vocational education or you can go into university, depending on what your skills are.
But we have those policies.
Well, that is part of the problem. That is part of the problem. But the policies are not holistic. No, the policies are not properly joined up, and then they are not executed effectively. The second response to unemployment in Nigeria is that the best way to create jobs in most economies is through entrepreneurship. Most jobs in most capitalist economies are created by businesses, small and medium enterprises especially. So, why is it difficult for people to start small-scale businesses in Nigeria? One of the problems they have is not having access to finance. So I have recommended the establishment of a public-private partnership venture capital fund of a minimum of 500 billion naira. That will be done in partnership between the government and the private sector, but the fund must be run by the private sector and must be run for profit. So if that happens, you will find that a lot of unemployed graduates may be able to access capital if they have good ideas to start small businesses. And this will generate a lot of jobs.
In reply to what you said, the thing is that we always want other people to solve our country's problem than, and that we have brains in this country. Recently,
that's from
the government utilized, they employed the services of certain consultants on economy from Malaysia. What is your take on that, especially considering the fact that, the solutions you just gave are within our shores?
Yeah. Now, I don't have a problem with consultants from Malaysia. Knowledge is valuable, and wherever you can get it, it's helpful. However, there is a problem of attitude. Clearly, this knowledge exists in Nigeria with Nigerians, but the government is not looking to Nigerians, within Nigerians, to solve these problems. And I think that's a bit of a problem. The government of Nigeria does not recognize its own people. And that's a political leadership failure. Yes.
Sir, the solutions that you're talking about, education is the bedrock of it. And our president identified that we need 4.6 trillion to change the educational system. But we have a problem with our budgeting where they are still using 65 million for wildlife. They're using 1 billion for only Aso Rock. They're using 1.3 billion for president and vice president to travel. How do we solve this problem that they say that they have inherited?
The solution is a political solution. And it's a citizen solution. The citizens who are not happy, if they are not happy with the standard of governance, they should bring in people who will give them a higher standard of governance. If they fail to do so, the citizens themselves are as incompetent as the government they say they're not happy with.
Because, you see, I think that's what I've gotten from this conversation. Because it seems as though that the people the people handling our economy seem to have a good intention.
But
they have an idea of what they want to do. But the political will to do it isn't there. That's why our recurrence is still high.
God bless
you. Also, the people also haven't understand the power they have to ensure that the political class have the right, that they are the right people.
Let me actually say that you've just made a very good point, because one of the experiences I had in Nigeria serving in government is to find out that people, technocrats who manage the economy, a lot of times have the competence and have the good intentions. But the political leaders on top have very different priorities. And they are the ogas at the top. So what's the solution? The solution is that the citizens have to place the technocrats inside political power. Because it is only when the people who have political power have the same type of vision that you can have change. If the political leadership has a very different agenda, or the political class have different habits, different tendencies, different agendas from the technocrats will always be frustrated. Their good intentions will not will not bear fruit for the citizens of Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Prof.
You're very welcome.
I have a lot of questions, though. Prof,
we have to bring you back.
To come back.
We'll try to book you because the truth is that people need this information. They need to understand the power they have to change the political class.
Absolutely.
So once you understand that power, they know what to do in 2019.
That's the point.
I think that's the point. Thank you so much, sir, for being on our show.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
so.
you.
The promo is on. Are you eloquent, attractive, confident, opinionated? Please. We've seen lots of videos on the hashtag Your View Auditions. Thank you very much for those who have uploaded the videos. We're looking forward to December 1st when we now put everything together and now pick our final 30. Then with auditions, the interviews start. Thank you so much for participating. And please keep uploading and keep liking. The ones you like, go there and like. Let us know the ones you like so that we can then invite them. Have a fabulous day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Prof.